And be very, 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 very cautious of that, because that is a dangerous friendship, relationship, whatever it is. Hello, this is the third and final part of our 3-part series about how to start living your dream life. And this video is going to be all about relationships, friendships, romantic, all of them, because our relationships are very important and they really do affect our lives. So now I'm gonna share some food for thought, and these are both ideas that come from Benjamin P. Hardy. I am looking at my laptop, I will not lie, because I did not memorize these quotes. Please forgive me. It says, surrounding yourself with people who have higher standards than you is the fastest way to change. In fact, I believe it's the only way to truly and permanently change. He also said, your level of talent and potential are irrelevant if you are surrounded by people who don't help you realize it. And I think that is so true. I always talk about this where I'm like, I would rather be alone than around people who make me feel like I, one, don't have potential, and two, don't make me feel good. You know, I experienced this when I was in college. I will not lie. I joined a sorority my first year. I don't know why I did it, to be honest. I'm a little bit of like a lonely person, to be completely honest. And I think towards the end of high school, I did this program where I could get credit for college because I had to like pay for my college. And I kind of just became friends with the people I worked with, and that was basically it. But I was very low key. I didn't go out. I did go out at one point, I will not lie to you guys. I used to party when I was younger, but then I just stopped. I just didn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, I stopped going out, and you know, I lost a lot of social friends, but that's okay, because during that time I was focusing on other things. And when I went to college, I kind of felt like I didn't really know too many people or have anyone or have a group, so I decided to join a sorority. And my foster dad, he had only been fostering me for about 2 years, and he was like, girl, really? This is what you want to do? Because I don't think this is who like you are. Like, I don't think this is gonna work. And at the time, I was very stubborn. I'm like, no, like, it will be great, blah, 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 all this stuff. Yeah, he was right. He was right, which was so interesting because he had only known me for such a short period of time, but he just knew that it wasn't gonna clicky clack. So I ended up dropping, but the moral of the story is that I joined a sorority and I was being someone I wasn't. I was being someone fake. And so I felt not good. I just didn't feel like I was who I was, and I got involved in things that I had been wanting to not be involved in for so long. And I think because I felt a little bit depressed and like I was faking who I was, this is the reason that I started to do those things. And this just goes to like partying and things like that. And yeah, I just felt like I couldn't be who I truly was because I faked who I was when I was going through. And you know, the people in my sorority were actually lovely people. There was nothing wrong with them. I just am very different from them, and I just wanted to have a community so bad that I faked who I was to be there, and it just drew me farther from who I truly was. And then I ended up dropping, and after that I made different friends. I made friends with runners because I had a common interest with them, and I used to run with this random guy. I'm actually not sure how we met. I think through the app Strava, but yeah, I used to run with him like once a week. We had no mutuals. We would have never crossed paths being that we weren't both runners, but I loved running with him because he was very intelligent and we had very stimulating and interesting conversations. And then when it came to school, I just started to be in groups with people out of random. You know, like I would just post in the discussion board and be like, who wants to be in my group? And I would just take the first 4 people, and that was that. I was ready to meet new people. And through that, I met a lot of really cool people. And I feel like, you know, my last year of university, I felt better because I was like, well, I am who I am, and I am now around people who I feel like I can be who I am, and they accept me that way, and I don't have to fake anything to get people to like me. You know what they say? The only thing you lose by being real is what's fake. So that's that. Okay, now I'm gonna share a few things that I learned from books I read. The first book, which is very popular and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, is The 48 Laws of Power. There's this idea in there that it's very, very, very difficult to have a positive life if you are surrounded by negative people. Yes, I think that this is true. It is so great to be around people who are positive because they will make you more positive. But I will also say that I have struggled with a depressive disorder my whole life. For me now, I don't really talk to people about my problems because I don't want to be a burden, but there is a line between those two things, because if you have friends who struggle with any type of mental illness, I think it is very important to be there for them. For me personally, when I have friends who have mental illnesses that are struggling, I will do my best to, one, be there for them, and two, help them get out of it. You know, like, this is very different than just someone being negative all the time. If someone's just negative about everything in life, that is so much different than if someone is like really, really struggling with depression. Because I mean, I have a special place in my heart for those people because I struggle and I know what it feels like, and I do my best to stay positive. But you know, sometimes even if I am feeling super depressed and I hang out with my friends who are very positive, it makes me feel better. So it just reminds me like, hey, this won't last forever, like the feeling of depression. And I think that's the hardest part about depression is when you're depressed, you cannot remember the good. Like, you don't remember what it feels like to feel good. And that's why it's so low. But out of the whole mental health section of that, I think it is very important to surround yourself with positive people who are optimistic and who see the beautiful things in life. I think that positive people tend to have a lot of gratitude and appreciation for things in life. And when you're around those types of people, you'll be like, whoa, okay, I'm very grateful and appreciative for that too. I do think it is important to be around positive people, but I also think it's important to not hold it against people if sometimes they have waves of depression, because, you know, that's a serious thing, and I would never push someone away because they're depressed. And I hope no one would do that to me either, but like, I think they're two different things. So I just want to clarify that because, yeah, I don't think that's like the whole idea is that like, hey, if you have a friend and they struggle with having some bad days out of the month, you shouldn't be friends with them. That's not what I'm saying. I absolutely do not recommend that. I think that if you have a friend and they struggle with anything, that you should be there for them and try to help them, and you can be the positive light in their life. This next idea came from Jordan Peterson's book, The 12 Rules of Life. And basically what he says is, actually I have the direct quote, so we'll just read that. It says, if you have a friend whose friendship you wouldn't recommend to your sister or your father or your son, why would you have such a friend yourself? And I think this is very, very true. There are some people that being friends with them might drag you down in life, and that's hard. But these are the types of people when you say like, hey, I'm, you know, working on myself and I'm trying to go to bed early and I'm not drinking, all these things, and they're like, oh, come on, like just one night, like you don't have to be so lame. Those people are iffy. Yeah, that's what I love about, you know, my few friends I have now, is that I am like, hey, I don't drink, so I'm not gonna enjoy going to the bars. And they're like, no worries. You know, they don't hold it against me. They're like, we'll find something else to do. But they don't push me to like do things that I don't want to do because it doesn't make me feel good. So be very, very, very cautious of that. And since we're talking about changing your life so you can start living your dream life, I realized that when you start to change things in your own life because you want to upgrade it, because you want to start doing the things that you've always wanted to do, and you want to live a different life, people sometimes want to drag you down because they don't want you to do that because they themselves are not doing it. And be very, 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 very cautious of that, because that is a dangerous friendship, relationship, whatever it is. And the last thing, your network is your net worth. If you are trying to pursue an industry, I think it is very good to get involved with people in that industry and start to meet people. People love to collaborate and work together and do projects together. And if you can get in that circle, that will really help you. I also have noticed that, you know, when I moved to LA, I was surrounded by a lot of different people. I feel like back in Seattle, I just kind of always knew the same types of people. But when I moved out here, there is such a wide variety of people, right? And I learned so much from becoming friends with different people about everything. And it truly has really changed the way I view life and expanded my brain, because I just didn't know these things before. And now I do. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. So sometimes meeting someone will help you see things differently and see that there's so much more. Okay, it is the next day. I would not lie to you guys, but I tried to wear the same outfit so you guys wouldn't get confused. But yes, we had an appointment to get to, so I couldn't finish it all at once. But you know what they say, done is better than perfect. So let's get into where we left off. The moral of this whole story about relationships and friendships and all of those wonderful things is that who we hang out with really does impact who we are and how we live our lives, because we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If you spend time with 5 people who are super adventurous, you're going to be super adventurous. If you spend time with 5 people who are super lazy, you're going to be lazy too. It's just the way it works. And for my own personal life, I have realized that this is something that happens. I'm a little bit of a strange topic because I don't really hang out with people a ton. I have friends, a few friends. I don't know why I got so defensive. I mean, there's been times where I didn't have friends, so it's whatever. Like, if you don't have friends, I've been there and I will not lie. But it's because I'm very picky, because I know how impactful relationships are. And I've realized through being picky, I have the best people around me because I look for certain qualities and traits and I have standards. And because I do that, which we're gonna dive into right now, is why I think I get so many wonderful people. You know, okay, it is action plan time. So I like to do this at the end of the videos where I tell you guys what I did to help me, some frameworks you could say, and hopefully they help you too. So the first thing I did when I started to really pay attention to the relationships in my lives, because I didn't always have the best, you know, relationships and friendships and all those things. And that's because I just felt alone and I just didn't want to be alone. And then as I got older, I realized I would rather be alone. Here's what I did, okay? I grabbed a journal and I wrote down all the qualities that I look for in a friend and a partner. You can do it for both. I think that they'll have a lot of the same ones, except, you know, romantic relationships tend to be slightly different than just normal friendships. But write down the qualities that you look for in any type of relationship. Then you're gonna acknowledge this is your new standard. This is what you are expecting when you have relationships with people. And I know this seems like so, I don't know how to describe it, like analytical, or it seems weird. And even though it might seem kind of strange, it really helps you find the right people for you in your lifetime. I'll just say that because I know this is a little bit of a strange topic, but it does help. Okay, you have your new standard. You're like, this is what I look for in people. And for me, it tends to go down to morals, right? Like, is this person honest? Is this person nice to other people? That is a huge one for me. You can really tell who someone is when you go to a restaurant with them. How do they treat the waiter? If someone is not treating the waiter very nicely, I think to myself, you know, they might be nice to me, but if they can be mean to a total stranger, you kind of start to think about their character. You know what I mean? So I do think that is very important. Another one for me is I try to not be friends with people who gossip a ton. I understand that sometimes things happen and people need to get things off their chest, but if the topic is always gossip, yeah, I can't do that. I can do my best to help that person, and I will do this. And I sometimes think it is a problem because I always want to fix people, but I don't know. I don't mind. Like, I will just try and I'll be like, hey, like, you know, we should talk about blah, 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 because we don't really know what's going on in that person's life. I will say though, I think it is very important to never attack someone's character. You can bring up something that happened, but don't be like, you did this, you are this, you do this, because that is very harsh and it's very harmful. And when you tell people things like that, sometimes they take it in and they, you know, it can make them start to believe that about themselves. And that's, I don't know, I don't think that's a good way to go. I've never thought that's a good way to go, but that is just that. We will leave that there. Yes, for me, it's mainly morals. They don't have to have the same interests. They don't have to be, you know, making videos or artistic. It does help if you have some common interests. Do they like to work out, or do they like to go to certain places or go to the beach? You know, like, it helps to have certain things in common so you can do things together. But I don't expect the people in my life to do the same thing I'm doing because we're all very different people. And yeah, I guess at the end it just comes down to morals and values. Okay, so now that you have your standard, you're gonna reflect on the people in your life today. And this can be really hard, but think about relationships where maybe you leave hanging out with them and you don't feel very good. That maybe is not a good relationship for you. If you leave hanging out with someone and you feel anxious or depressed or upset or any of these feelings, that is your body telling you that this might not be the most compatible person for you to have a friendship or relationship with. Trust me, I know it's hard because sometimes these relationships have been years in the making, but I do think that people will always find the right people for them. And maybe you being super close with this person is making it hard for them to find the right people for them and you to find the right people for you. You know, it can help both people, if it's not really mending well, to adventure out and see if they can make new friends. It's very helpful to both people in the situation. Okay, so now after you reflect and you're like, okay, this person, you know, I always feel very good, and then this person I don't feel so good. There's one thing you can do first before just being like you're cut off. I always think it's good to communicate, be like, hey, and see what the problem is. Really think about what is the problem? Why do you leave feeling this way? And write that down so you know, because it's very not productive to go to someone and be like, hey, I don't feel good after hanging out with you, and they're like, why? You need to go there with the problem and then be like, do you think we could, work on this? And see how they respond. And if they're like, yeah, totally, blah, blah, I didn't know you were feeling that way. Because a lot of times it's miscommunication, but you have to have that conversation. I always think it's good to give people chances, and I'm a very forgiving person. I think that the way society is sometimes is very questionable. It makes me think really deeply because things like cancel culture, people get mad at people, they tell them they're this awful person and that person keeps being a bad person, but that's what you're telling them. So why would they try to get better when you're giving them no chance to redeem themselves? And I will stick by this. I think everyone deserves forgiveness and everyone deserves the opportunity to change. And I think it's a good thing. To each their own. Maybe you don't feel the same way, and that is completely okay, but I'm just saying from my point of view, you can't tell someone that they're a bad person or get mad at someone for doing something and cancel them and then be upset when they don't change because you basically told them that they're unforgivable. And why would someone want to change if they feel that way? Okay, so this is the final part. After you have journaled and you've analyzed the relationships in your life and you have a standard, one, this is a good standard to have when you meet new people. See if they are connecting with you and if they're kind of reaching all those points. Maybe there's some that you're flexible with, but maybe there's 3 that you're like, okay, this is what I absolutely need to be friends with someone. And the rest of them are like, okay, this would be nice, but if this is not the case, like, it's okay. That's why I was saying for me, it's mainly morals and values, like 2 things, right? But this is a completely individual activity. This is just like how I did it. So write down whatever you feel and go off of that. If you're looking at things and you're like, ooh, I don't really have that many great people around me right now, let me tell you, there's ways to meet them. And the way that I would suggest doing this is signing up for things that you already enjoy doing. So that way you're gonna share a common interest with this person. I mentioned this earlier in like my own personal story, but for me, signing up for a running club. I love to run. I'm obsessed with it. And signing up for a running club helps me meet other runners. And there's so many people there that I'm pretty sure that you will connect with at least one person. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you will connect with someone. Or let's say you like to paint. Sign up for a painting class or a cooking class or anything that you have interest in, because that's such a good way to start new friendships and relationships, because you're sharing a common interest in the first place, so you have something to do together. And that completes this video. Yeah, I guess the main point is that our relationships really do impact our life, and you're never stuck with the people you have now if they're not being good friends or significant others to you. And I think it's important to always keep yourself open to meeting new people, because you never know who you're gonna meet. Okay, that is the end. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye! Kisses!